Hi, I'm Jenny Shanahan, reader, writer, and artist. And when I was asked to participate in Chicago Classics, I knew exactly what book I was going to pick. I chose I'll Take You There, the Mavis Staples story by Greg Kot. I really love this book. I didn't know really very much about Mavis Staples, but I sure know her music. And when I read this, I was so thrilled. I learned so much about Chicago, more about civil rights, and more about the music of that era that I think we all know really, really well. But it was really such a family. I learned that reading this book. And it's a great book because it's really, Greg did countless hours of interviews with Mavis, and he gathers so much history from that time and his own knowledge of music from being the music critic at the Tribune for so many years, and puts it into this book. And there are just so many great passages to read. So I'm going to choose a couple from in here. I think there's just so much information in this easy to read book. So this is when Mavis is still a kid and she's singing in churches. Mavis Staples was a pocket-sized dynamo. She wasn't just the tiniest of gospel singers. She was also dwarfed by most of her schoolmates. Worshippers were astonished to see this skinny little girl climb atop a chair in the middle of church service to reach the microphone and then sing the Lord's praises with a grown woman's voice. People would come up crying and put money in my hand, and I didn't understand. I thought I was hurting them, Mavis says. So I asked Mama, why are people crying? She said, Mavis, they're happy. Your singing makes them cry happy tears. The Staples family's second weekend appearance at Mount Zion Baptist Church went even better than the first. The collection brought $35, and Pops and the family went home with $17.50. So, of course, their popularity grows and they become more well-known, and they are able to live beyond the sort of sustenance living that they had been doing. And that at this point, in this next passage that I'm going to read, they already have hits on VJ Records, Uncloudy Day and Will the Circle Be Unbroken. And this is how their life has changed. The Staples family home was a bit like church, a place where friends and neighbors could congregate and share their stories. Church offered fiery oratory and gospel choirs, but the Staples home had Osceola Staples' kitchen and dinner table. After the family's initial success at VJ, Pops was able to break the cycle of slum apartment living to buy a 2-story brown brick 4-flat on 89th Street in Langley at the outset of the 60s. He, Osceola, and their youngest daughter Cynthia lived on the top floor, and Mavis, before she was married, and later Osceola's mother, Grandma Ware, shared the first floor space with Yvonne, with tenants renting the other 2 apartments. An L-shaped lawn wrapped around the house to the alley and a 2-car garage where Pops parked his Cadillac. Their home became a year-round sanctuary, rest stop, and diner for artists and entertainers the family had met in their travels. When the groups would come to town to sing at DuSable or someplace, invariably at that time, they really couldn't eat downtown, number 1, Jesse Jackson said. But to have a home-cooked meal, we would always end up at the Staples home, and so they became the table to all these great artists. Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin, and Gladys Knight were among their dinner guests. Nancy Wilson would call ahead before she came to town and order her favorites, creamed corn, greens, and hot water cornbread. When Red Fox couldn't make it over to the house for dinner, he'd call to ask Mom to send a plate to him backstage at the Regal Theater. Osceola sent Pops to personally deliver the meal. Ray Charles became obsessed with Osceola's sweet potato pie and joked that he and Mom Staples should open a franchise together. She wouldn't let the singer leave the house without supplying him with an extra pie to take back to his hotel. Chicago soul DJ Herb Kent raved on the air about Osceola's culinary skills. The Staple singers don't need payola because they've got pie-ola. This book has so many little stories like that, and I hope that more people go find this book because right now it's just a really enjoyable read about another time when our city got through a time of deep civil unrest. Thank you.